5750. Choose the correct statement regarding wake turbulence. A. Vortex generation begins with the initiation of the takeoff roll. B. The primary hazard is loss of control because of induced roll. C. The greatest vortex strength is produced when the generating airplane is heavy, clean, and fast. The correct answer is B. Wake turbulence is the turbulence created by an aircraft as it passes through the air. It is caused by the vortices that are generated at the wingtips of an aircraft when it is producing lift. The primary hazard of wake turbulence is the induced roll, which can cause loss of control for aircraft flying in the wake of a larger aircraft. It is important for pilots to be aware of and maintain proper separation from the wake turbulence of other aircraft to avoid potential hazards. 5751. During a takeoff made behind a departing large jet airplane, the pilot can minimize the hazard of wingtip vortices by A. Being airborne prior to reaching the jet's flight path until able to turn clear of its wake. B. Maintaining extra speed on takeoff and climb out. C. Extending the takeoff roll and not rotating until well beyond the jet's rotation point. The correct answer is A. Wingtip vortices are created by the lift generated by an aircraft's wings and are particularly strong behind larger aircraft. These vortices can pose a hazard to smaller aircraft following behind. To minimize the risk, it is recommended for the pilot to become airborne before reaching the flight path of the departing jet and then maneuver to stay clear of its wake. By doing so, the pilot can reduce the exposure to the vortices and the associated turbulence, decreasing the risk of encountering hazardous conditions. 5752. Your flight takes you in the path of a large aircraft. In order to avoid the vortices, you should fly A. At the same altitude as the large aircraft. B. Below the altitude of the large aircraft. C. Above the flight path of the large aircraft. The correct answer is C. Wingtip vortices generated by a large aircraft tend to sink and drift behind the aircraft. By flying above the flight path of a large aircraft, you can minimize the risk of encountering the vortices and the associated turbulence. This helps maintain a safe distance from the vortices and reduces the potential for disruption to your aircraft. It's important to exercise caution and adhere to recommended separation guidelines when operating in the vicinity of larger aircraft to ensure flight safety. 5753. To avoid possible wake turbulence from a large jet aircraft that has just landed prior to your takeoff, at which point on the runway should you plan to become airborne? A. Past the point where the jet touched down. B. At the point where the jet touched down, or just prior to this point. C. Approximately 500 feet prior to the point where the jet touched down. The correct answer is A. To avoid possible wake turbulence from a large jet aircraft that has just landed prior to your takeoff, you should plan to become airborne past the point where the jet touched down. Wake turbulence is created by the vortices formed at the wingtips of an aircraft, particularly larger and heavier aircraft such as jets. These vortices can linger in the air for a significant period and pose a potential hazard to smaller aircraft that follow behind. 5754. When landing behind a large aircraft, which procedures should be followed for vortex avoidance? A. Stay above its final approach flight path all the way to touchdown. B. Stay below and to one side of its final approach flight path. C. Stay well below its final approach flight path and land at least 2,000 feet behind. The correct answer is A. Keep the huge aircraft's final approach flying path in sight or above it. Land past the touchdown zone after noting it.